and we can't maneuver without that team. So glad to listen to his remarks. I'll certainly provide probably 5 minutes of opening thoughts. We'll have a little dialogue, and then with some time left at the end, get into some questions as well. You know, America is a maritime nation. We've always been a maritime nation. It's our way of life. We depend on the freedom of the seas. And as America's away team, we combine power and presence. We bring the fight to our adversaries, and we sustain combat operations from the high seas. We deploy the world's most sophisticated weapon systems operated by our highly skilled personnel, and we're ready to fight and win our nation's wars 24/7, 365. Our adversaries face an undeniable reality that a fight against the U.S. joint force would be unwinnable and costly. Every day, the Navy's strategically positioned around the globe to provide a rapid response to emerging crisis. Our adversaries experienced that this weekend as the Houthi regime is feeling the Truman Carrier Strike Group's wrath. After defending maritime shipping in the Red Sea and defeating more than 400 drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles to ensure and enforce the rules-based international order, the Truman Carrier Strike Group went on the offensive and carried out dozens of offensive strikes from sovereign U.S. territory, our aircraft carriers, our cruisers, and our destroyers against Houthi aggressors in Yemen. They're able to do this on short order because they're well-trained and they operate forward around the globe every day. And every day in the expansive Western Pacific against our pacing challenge, the Chinese Communist Party. The Navy Marine Corps team enhancing regional interoperability by working with our allies and partners, we demonstrate peace through strength with our military-to-military exercises. And we counter the influence of the Communist Chinese Party, North Korea, and Russia by sailing anywhere international law allows, and by operating side by side our regional allies, Japan, Australia, South Korea, the Philippines, and Thailand, but also European nations and Canada, who routinely operate with us in those globally important waters. The Navy's ballistic missile submarines stand the watch every day, providing a powerful and ever-present nuclear deterrence. And our apex killers, our fast attack submarines, are patrolling the deep, undetected, and in the minds of the adversary, everywhere, yet nowhere to be found. I'll reemphasize that, nowhere to be found. If you watched or read Admiral Kilby's opening remarks at his most recent SASC testimony to the Readiness Subcommittee, you'll know that the readiness is important, paramount in what we're working on every day, and urgency matters. The current threats aren't going to wait for new platforms to be delivered. We must therefore generate more operational availability from our existing ships, submarines, and aircraft, and they need to be combat surge ready. We must continue to enhance our ability to sense and make sense of the environment from the seabed to space, and we must deliver decision advantage for our warfighting leaders. As my role as the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Information Warfare and the Director of Navy Intelligence, it's this decision advantage that has my undivided attention right now. It's through this lens that we're prioritizing our maritime operations centers, improving our ability to generate fires at range, and increasing our fleet commanders' ability to sense and make sense of their battle space against our peer adversary. We live in the information age, and our ability to aggregate, parse, and rapidly synthesize information is our advantage. We must do it at machine speed, at least machine-aided speed, to assist in applying human decision-making across an increasingly complex battle space. The goal is to outthink and therefore outmaneuver the adversary. Decision superiority is predicated on our ability to have the right information delivered to the right person and the right shooter at the right classification level at the right time. And this information must support all 7 joint warfighting functions. Command and control, information management, intelligence, these 3 joint warfighting functions fused together provide us that decision advantage. It's easily said, but there are many, many crucial details behind an ability to do this, especially at the expansive ranges of the Pacific and against a thinking and a capable peer adversary. We won't outbuild the competition alone. They are the world's manufacturing juggernaut. but we're the world's innovation juggernaut, and we need to capitalize on our ability to outthink and outmaneuver across many domains simultaneously. We have something that they don't, our sailors and their warrior ethos, who we trust and count on every day to deliver at sea. Trust, mission command, culture, these are yet another asymmetric advantage that gives me great confidence that should deterrence fail, that we will prevail. Now more than ever, we need the flexibility to find, to experiment, and field at scale capabilities that we need to fight and win our nation's wars. That's robotics, autonomous systems, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and 3D printing. Our Navy's laying the keel for the hybrid fleet through various efforts to build and integrate uncrewed systems and to invest in artificial intelligence applications. That's why I'm very pleased to see the makeup of the Defense Disruptors Panel. Those are teammates that are on the leading edge of these technologies. And with that, we've got plenty of time for questions, and then, time permitting, we'll open up to the audience.
Admiral, good to see you again. You talked about a little bit about the advanced technologies that the Navy's looking at, robotics, AI, and things like that. We heard earlier in the day from both the Air Force and Army that they're increasingly going to exercise campaigns to try out this emergent technology in the hands of the, in your case, in the hands of the sailors and perhaps Marines. Are you doing those types of campaign exercise experiments to shake out what you're fielding, and how well publicized are they?
Yeah, we're absolutely involved in many of those same exercises. I think everybody in this audience is very familiar with the Project Convergence series led by the Army, where we bring the joint force together to work on those kill chains, kill webs, to be able to move the information around. So that's a piece of what we're doing. Right now we're doing a lot of experimentation in the non-traditional sea denial side of the world. So we've been watching in the Black Sea and learning what the Ukrainian Navy has done to the Russian Navy. There are places in this world that have contested littoral environments, and those kind of capabilities can be quite useful. So we know that's something in the Navy that we can buy and scale at speed. And we're working on the autonomy aspect of that. We're working on how you command and control that, and running experiments to learn quickly. And certainly in the Indo-PACOM AOR, there's many experiments that we do on a regular basis. And I think we've really embraced the idea that you got to buy a little, learn a lot, iterate, and then move to the very next stage.
Admiral, leveraging off of that, you've been experimenting, you've been doing this, the Navy's got a number of task forces in Bahrain and other places that have been doing piece parts of this on autonomous systems. From everything that you're seeing and what you're focused on, what are the other disruptive technologies? Specifically, what kinds of things show the most promise with the most upside opportunity from your perspective?
I think the previous speaker obviously talked about the importance of space, talked about how we absolutely rely on it from a timing and a precision perspective. The other guy does too. We absolutely rely on it from a communication. You know, we're a disconnected service where everything that we communicate has to go off the ship, and we can do UHF in near location, but in general we have to look at extended range communications, often through space. The other guy, when they're thinking about doing long range weapons, those weapons that are flying long ranges need updates. We're looking at longer range weapons. So this battle space that when I was a young ensign was pretty small and organic has become vast, and the Pacific is huge. And so all of those provide attack surfaces, provide opportunity. And so I think in the world of counter C5SRT, that's another area that you could see disruption. You know, we're going against a peer adversary. So the peer adversary is not going to make it easy for us. He's going to try to deceive our understanding of the battle space. We're going to do the same thing to him. So decoys and deception is another big part where this is a ripe area.
Thank you, Admiral. As we talk about these various exercises, I'm wondering if you can explain the differences in how the Navy's architecture approach in Project Overmatch or packetizing disparate data is different from what the Army's doing in Project Convergence and what the Air Force is doing in ABMS, and how they all essentially will eventually tie together.
Yeah, so Project Overmatch, something our Naval Warfare Systems Command, NAVWAR, rolled out in the Navy. I resource it. It's really about the agility of moving information around the battle space. Obviously, we need to be interoperable as a joint force, so when we do exercises like Project Convergence, we're right there working with both the Air Force, the Marines, and the Space Force and the Army. Their exercise, but it really is a joint exercise, and it's about how do we share information rapidly through many different paths. The second part of Project Overmatch, which is really important, it's about software. It's about delivering battle management aids. It's about taking advantage of software and developing it in a way that's rapid and iterative, because the battle space of the future, just like we're seeing in Ukraine, it's a move, counter-move scenario. Things change, the adversary figures out what's happening and adjusts. And we need to be able to adjust rapidly. We've learned a lot of lessons in the Red Sea in how to better analyze engagements, adjust our weapon systems, update them, and prepare for the next salvo. That same learning has to happen. Not only, we've gone from months down to days, we now got to get down to hours. And so that really means software and adjusting over the air. And that's the future fight, because the other guy, a peer competitor, is going to be able to change, and you got to be able to change and counter move with them.
You mentioned that the Pacific is big, which obviously it is, but
we sometimes forget about that. We look at PowerPoint charts and we think it's a really small ocean. It's huge.
It's huge. We've got a sort of a new collection of international allies, partners that are there with a different warfighting challenge, perhaps. Can you summarize the international partnership, what's going on, how you're going to align common operating pictures and that sort of thing to maximize the extended lethality of a joint allied force?
Yeah, so I'm actually Friday getting on a plane to head to Canberra, Australia, for what we call Oscan Zucas. And so Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK, and we're going to talk about interoperability. That's pretty easy at the 5I level. I lived in Japan for 4 of the last 7 years. I was 7th Fleet Commander, worked side by side, the Kaijo Jeitai, the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force. We were interoperable to a point. We shared briefings, we met weekly, we talked and exercised together. But from a common operating picture, there's different levels of common operating picture, and there's different levels of intelligence, and there's protection of networks and cybersecurity. We have work to do in this space, and it's really important work. The Japanese live in the WES, they're forward and they have capacity. Our ability to share and to be able to work as one team, pretty proud of the work that we did. I was out there with my good battle buddy, General Chip Bierman, who was the 3MEF commander, and he worked side by side with the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force while I was working with the Navy and the Air Force. We exchanged our staffs. But when it comes down to true interoperability and the ability to get the ones and zeros from the intelligence sensing gathering machine synthesized and then sent to the shooter, there's a lot in that. It's like, kind of reminds me of my young days of tracing a molecule through a boiler. You got to be able to connect that dot throughout. And when we're talking about the importance of targeting and long-range fires and the need to update missiles that may, quite frankly, be in the air for an hour or two if you're talking about a maritime strike Tomahawk. Things change, and so you have to have that surveillance, the persistence targeting, the target quality data, and then you got to get it to the shooter. And you may have to update the weapon in flight. Doing that, and we know that our adversaries that are our allies that are operating out there are looking at the same weapons that we are, SM-6s, maritime strike Tomahawks, so that interoperability becomes even that much more important.
Certainly the last commander of Indo-PACOM, Admiral Aquilino, was very vocal about the lack of advance warning on what China was doing. I suspect Admiral Paparo has the same concerns. Are we any better? Are we getting closer to having better advanced insight and warning into what China is doing, or is that still going to be just an opaque box?
Probably can't talk a lot about some of the details, but I would tell you that every intelligence agency in the United States is boresighted